I'm curious, did you always feel beautiful growing up? I read that you were used to be more of a tomboy. Was beauty something that kind of blossomed later, or did you feel it from a young age?
You know, it was always both for me. I grew up between California and Wyoming, so two very different places. But my grandmother, who I'm named after, her name's Adell, is like very fabulous.
Love it.
And so she would take me to go shopping for like a new Easter dress every year. And she would take me to Claire's, you know, when I'm 8 years old, take me to Claire's and go get those plastic, like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty, the little plastic heels.
I always wanted those.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Like at a very young age, it was like, okay, and here's your dress and some heels, and this is chic. And I would go in, and although her skin tone, if you don't know, I'm adopted, so my mother's skin tone does not quite match mine, but I would go and play in her makeup, and you know, at a very young age was kind of exposed to that.
Glamour.
But then in the summertime, I see, you know, my grandma in a little Ralph Lauren button up and some blue jeans and her boots, and she's canning jam, and I'm helping pick raspberries and can jam and riding, you know, four-wheelers with my brothers and my cousins. So it was always very girly, but the tomboy as well. I was never afraid to get my hands dirty, never afraid to, you know, go out and play in the mud or swim in the creek or things like that. But I also loved painting my nails and straightening my beautiful curly hair at the time when I was insecure about it. But
well, speaking of straightening your hair, Wyoming, I would imagine, was not very racially diverse.
No,
and
not at all.
You are biracial.
Yeah.
And maybe didn't even have, you know, Blackness reflected in your adopted family. Did you find it difficult to kind of find your place?
Well, I always had my siblings, you know. I have 4 siblings. My parents adopted all 5 of us, and we are all we are all biracial.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. So we kind of had each other, but we were definitely the black kids in town.
Yeah.
But you know, my parents really taught us to be proud of who we are. And although my mom didn't know what to do with my hair most of the time, you know, she always told me that it was beautiful. And my little sister came along, and she has pin straight hair, and I was always like, you bitch. But then she had, you know, my curly hair. Why can't I have just hair like that? I try to curl my hair and it falls out. So I think it's kind of, you know,
you want what
I was
you don't
insecure
have.
about whatever, but we all kind of have those moments, and yeah.
I love the fact that you guys were adopted together. You guys stayed together. That's beautiful. So, and talk about expression. I just love how expressive you are. You're expressive in the way you sound, owning your sound, your body language. And I keep going back to this fact that you seem so mature, you know, but you have sisters.
Yes.
Beauty is always subjective, you know? So when did you know that you had the ability to express yourself from the outside?
This is like partially traumatic, I feel like.
Tell us. This is a safe space.
So I was raised very religiously.
Right.
My mom.
Church of Latter-day Saints, right?
Yes.
Can you just explain to us like what that, because I hear about it, but I'm not even quite sure what it is.
It's a Christian sect. They have their own book that they believe in, as well as the Bible. I'm no longer practicing. I did serve a mission, which means I was a missionary, and I went to Sweden for almost 2 years. So I'm fluent in Swedish. But so it was a very different, I lived a very different
life,
childhood, being raised Mormon, as well as being raised in Manhattan Beach, but also in Star Valley, Wyoming. It was just kind of a whole flurry of things. My mom was very against me kind of experimenting with makeup and clothes and things. And, you know, they like to stay a little more modest and covered up. And although I like to be chic enough, you know, but I like to show some skin.
Right.
And, you know, I'd get grounded for wearing shorts. And makeup was like, if I ever put any little bit on, it was like, go wash that off right now.